So I want to welcome everyone to another episode of the Birth New Earth podcast, where we are on a mission to remind all of humanity that we have the power to birth a new earth. We can consciously come together and we can co-create the kind of world that we really want to live in. So that means that we can look at all the systems that are outdated, that are limiting us, and we can come together to transcend them and create brand new systems. And that is why I'm so super excited to welcome my next guest. And I'm going to go right into reading your bio because you are doing exactly that. So everyone, meet Mo Ezderman. He is a visionary AI leader who sees AI not just as a tool, but as a catalyst to flip the corporate paradigm. So you see it as shifting from top-down leadership into actually empowering people from the bottom up, creating opportunities for everyone to build and do what they love. I cannot wait to hear all about that. So your work just isn't about only technology, it's about impact. For over 20 years, you've been at the forefront of innovation, playing a key role in, and this is one of the most impressive bios ever, you've co-developed a first of its kind generative AI music platform with Siri Co-Founder Tom Gruber. So you've helped artists to actually maximize their revenue. You've created AI tools that drastically reduce the time to identify victims of sexual abuse. You've worked alongside the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Super impressive. You've helped to dismantle one of the largest ad fraud operations ever. You've collaborated with the FBI and Google to develop fraud detection systems that are reshaping the industry even today. So here you are now. You're the director of AI at a company called MindGrub. So you're helping businesses to revolutionize operations, and you're doing this through AI strategy, as well as the implementation of agentic systems, which we'll also have to learn more about what that means. And so essentially you're bringing intelligence and automation to the forefront of business transformation. But we're really going to go beyond the world of AI in our conversation here, because you're driven by this deep passion for going within, deep thinking, personal growth, movement, and even in your spare time, you're meditating daily, you hike with your golden doodle, and you've become a full-blown CrossFit addict, which I completely understand. You're originally from Israel, and you're calling New York your home for really 30 years now. It's wow, you don't look that old.
All right.
But whenever I go through the bios, people are like, damn, I can't believe I have done all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's fun to
bravo
hear.
and welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Really excited. I think we planned this talk for quite some time. So finally we're doing it. So
Yeah, we are finally doing it. And like I want to hear right out of the gate what you're seeing in the corporate world. It's been a minute since I've been in the corporate world. Everyone is talking about how AI is going to come in, it's going to like make all the jobs just go away. People are like running for the hills and scared. So, but you don't see it that way. And that's why I'm inviting you to the show, because we're looking for folks who are excited about what's happening, and instead of having kind of this fear-based reaction. So tell us more.
yeah, talking about the corporate world, first we need to understand why they even exist for the first place, right? So
Right.
uh,
Yeah. A lot of people want to know that.
like why do we have cooperation? Which must
Right.
have come from a good reason, right? Like we used to be like you know, everybody had like very specific domain expertise. And in order to build something like a little bit more complicated, you need to bring different discipline and different skills into your corporation. And then together, everybody's working on like to achieve a specific goal. So that's what I've been doing for decades. And obviously, the challenge of doing it is that, like, take for example, if you want to build like a product, you need to have like five different roles, many more departments outside of this team to build one product. And we as a human, we couldn't figure it out yet how to work together in a very efficient way. And that's led to a lot of frustration.
Mm,
You join a corporation, you're like very
mm,
motivated and you want to build like achieve specific goals, but then you realize that you can't actually do it because you have so much friction and so much like dependencies on other people.
Yeah,
But
talk
now,
about that. Like, what do you mean? But like, I know what you mean, where you almost just have to like wait for like another person to do something before you can go ahead and do your role, or you have to get approval, or something is like outside of your role, but like you want to do it. Like, is that what you're talking about? Like,
right,
you're saying
like you
friction?
always have dependencies. Like
Yeah,
you as engineers, you can't just go and build a product. You need to wait for product requirement. You need
right,
to wait for the finance to approve the budget for this product. Uh,
right,
and that's usually where people spend most of the time is figuring it out, not like building the product, but
right,
actually like navigating, like different department or organization
right. Just trying to get it
just
done.
to get it and waiting and things like that.
Right.
It's the hardest
Yes.
things in building a product. It's just like deep, like managing dependencies. That's what it is.
Right. Right. That is
Uh,
the pain of corporate.
That depends on corporate, and I think that's probably number one reason why people leave their jobs because they're coming in like to joining a mission, and I joined like many great mission in the past, but then when you realize that you can't actually do the things that you wanted to do
Right.
because of those
Right.
dynamic, so people get frustrated, and
Yeah.
in many cases, it's just leaving, and they try to find another place that maybe they can do that.
Right. That is like the reason why I've left every job. And like, no, it's 100% true. And you know, like you've known me for quite some time. Like
Yeah.
I've left a lot of jobs and I feel like everyone feels that pain. So are you saying then AI comes in some way and is solving for that?
Right, exactly. So, what is it? Like 2.5 years ago, we got introduced to the first large language models from OpenAI, and I'm sure by now everybody know what they do and what they're capable to, but they're very
And
good.
for the folks that don't, because I'm sure that there are folks that don't.
So it's AI models that got trained on a lot of data.
Hmm.
It costs like around $100 million to train these kind of models, to basically have all the internet data. And what's good about the models that it has very good reasoning.
Mm.
And it's understand also human language. So I can actually speak to the model and ask the model to either teach me new things, explain new things, or generate like all kind of content for me. And it has very good reasoning, and it's actually the response that we're getting from those models are really, really good. To get to a point that human will need to generate those kind of response. It's going to take them like weeks to generate those response, and now we have them in a matter of seconds
Mm.
and actually get like really, really quality reasoning from those models. So how is it related to corporate? So now, like you really, what this model is doing, it's elevated everybody's skills from
Mm.
0 to 6
Mm.
in a matter of hours, right? So if
Mm.
you never don't have experience in engineering, you need to build product. If you're sitting with these models and kind of being curious and ask it to teach you things, it's going to generate like technical product for you, like
Wow.
just by prompting and doing things like that.
What
Uh,
do you mean? Like, so I was a salesperson. Like,
mhm.
are you saying that like if I knew the right kind of prompting, that I could actually like build a product like without an engineer?
Right. You can, if
What?
you're curious, that's the thing with these tools. Like you just need to be curious. So if you
Explain more. Like, could I build a website?
You definitely can build a website in one line of sentence. Build me a website with those. You can actually take like an image of a website, upload it to ChatGPT, and tell like, "Hey, can you create a website based on this image?" And you just create this website. Um,
Is this what I've heard be called the no code revolution? Like,
Uh, it is a no-code revolution, right? That's a no-code revolution. No-code revolution is companies that creating more sophisticated agent that you're really able to build more sophisticated stuff. So if you're gonna go right now to ChatGPT or Claude and you kind of like, hey, build me a website, it's gonna build something, but I don't think it's gonna be like it's gonna be more of like idea of a website, right?
right,
It's gonna be functional.
right.
And but that's just like one example, right? Like engineering. But what if you have no skills in marketing? You immediately can be like a great marketer just by
Right.
asking the right question. Here's my plan. What's the best way to market my product? And the model is going to do like research analysis and many other things and really generate a cohesive marketing plan for you. So
So like, who do I want to focus on? Who's my best demographic? Where do
exactly,
I
who's my
find them across
competitor?
the
Like what
internet?
you right. If
Wow.
you're a salesperson, it's going to give you all your book how to sell the product. The point is that now, like, you don't really need all those players in a corporation
Right.
to build excellent products. You
Right.
have less people that know how to speak to those to large language models and know how to get what they need.
Right.
Um, so what we're going to see, that's my prediction, that we're going to see a lot more smaller teams. So big corporations going to have to scale down, and we start
Mhm.
seeing that, right? Like they don't need a lot more people like to do what,
Right.
you know.
Because you could have like one person wearing multiple hats easily.
Right. You
Yeah.
can have one person that can be like a writer, a strategist, and a salesperson. Like again, like we still need people. We need different kind of people.
Right.
But today, I can already see like a really small startup of 5 people can really generate like a product, like a few $1 billion product, which in the past you really needed to have a
Mm.
big investment and you need to have like big team to do it. And it
Wow.
changed the entire landscape, right? Like how investors even looking in new ideas, right? Like
Right.
you need to have a lot of money to invest
Right.
because you need to have less human to do the job.
Yeah, because like it used to be like if you spotted like, a hole in the market or like you had some kind of idea, you would need 20 to 30 people, you would need 20 to 30 million dollars, it'd be like this whole big operation. But it sounds like what you're saying is that, with that same idea, you could hit the ground running without that kind of investment and just, a couple of people or kind of just yourself to begin with.
Exactly. Most entrepreneurs right now that they have ideas and a little bit technical, right? Like, and you don't need to be like engineer. You just need to know how things works. They build a prototype for free, right? They don't need to hire anybody that they go in and take to investors, and now they actually can raise some fund, which in the past, in order to get to like the pre-seed round, you need to hire and put like 100 to $200,000
Right.
upfront for someone
Right.
to build a prototype. So now it's like, uh, you get it for free.
Wow. Like, so, okay. I'm one person. I have a product that I've always wanted to create. I now am learning to prompt, right? To be able to do my own sales outreach, right? To understand who to outreach to be able to actually create and manufacture the product. Like all supply chain, can go through this. Like legal information that I need, accounting information that I need, and like essentially like go to market strategy. Like I can all access that. Like it's like an all of like the like the spokes of like a single wheel of a company is what you're saying is like a single person. If they're curious about being able to work with AI, can do all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of my favorite thing, like I saw like a job post like a few weeks ago about the new requirement from human, and one of the line was there like, it obviously was all based around like knowing how to prompt, how to do, never use a lawyer. You don't need to use a lawyer. And it's true.
Yes.
Like you can today, like, uh, at least get an idea on most cases, right, on law. Like you can read a contract, you can get like, okay, I started a new job like this week and I got like a contract and I'm like upload it and just like ask the ChatGPT like what kind of things I need to be aware of for my contract and just like, oh, you need to like change that and
Wow.
ask about that. So you're really the new way of cooperation, whatever we want to call it, is like people going to wear many hats. They're going to know many different things. and it's just going to unlock more creativity from individual.
Right, right. So how does someone like me, right, who's not super tech savvy but wants to start my own company, like be okay with becoming curious about, like having an exchange with AI? Because I feel like a lot of people right now would be excited about what you're saying.
Mhm.
Because like it sounds like what you're saying to me is that, yes, corporations that are really large are going to by default become smaller because it just won't make sense to need that many people, because you're going to have a small chunk of people who become experts in multiple different, kind of like subsets of what their role can become.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. So all of the people that are leaving, right? All of those people that are let go, I feel like what you're saying is like the fear goes away because it sounds like everyone can just have their own company now.
Yeah, technically, yes. And I think we're going to see a lot more entrepreneurship,
Yeah,
especially people that live in corporation. And I think the job market that we know today, it's not going to get a lot better. It's
right,
actually going to be like more constrained and more, it's going to be harder to get the old jobs that
right, right. Like the same jobs won't exist
them
anymore.
jobs going forward, they
Right.
changing, jobs changing,
So
the
this
requirements
th
changing.
this is like an opportunity. It sounds like for people to actually ask themselves what they've always wanted to do, and then align with AI, like learn to coexist with AI to be able to do it.
Right. It's an opportunity right now to really be curious about anything that you wanted to be curious,
Mm,
that you thought you're not capable to
right.
understand. Um, I was saw like a really good post today on Twitter. Someone that like how do you there's the new models right now on chat GPT like O3 mini, which is like very sophisticated reasoning and things like that. And the way this guy learn is ask chat GPT, teach me a specific subject in Socrates method. And
Wow.
Socrates method is
Wow.
basically it's just asking you questions and
Questions.
you
Yeah.
answering, and then it's like kind of
Yeah.
leading you. And I tried a little bit, and it was fascinating because the
Wow.
first question is like, I just give an example. I want to learn about relativity or something like that, and he's like, "What do you know about relativity?" Like that's the baseline, and then I kind of answer like what I know about relativity. It's like, okay, we need to start from here, and it's keep
Right.
asking the question. So there's nothing that you cannot learn today if you're not
Right.
curious. And this is
Right.
through here. The AI is here for us to unlock like new skills that lead to, as we say, like a lot more entrepreneurship, right? Because
Wow.
yeah, that's going to unlock a lot of entrepreneurship.
Wow. So you then have this prediction of corporations, shrinking, right? But that giving way to all of the individuals, that are like scurrying out of the
Mhm.
company instead of going to find the same old role over again. The advice would be what? Like go within, figure out what.
Yeah, I think this is an opportunity for everybody to ask why we're doing the things that, why we're doing these things that we've been doing, right?
Right.
And I think the answer would be like, in a lot of cases, would be like money and promotions and
Right. Right.
things like that. And I think now it's the time to kind of ask like really, because we're not going to be able to find the job, that kind of job. So now it's the time to ask yourself what we really love, because
Mm.
obviously I think most of the people were unhappy, right? Like in doing those jobs. I think a lot of them were happy, but a lot of them were. It's easier to find unhappy people in corporation.
Yes, and a lot of people who decided to take on a role, I certainly did
Right.
for
Yeah.
like an entire career for the wrong reason, and the reasons that you're pointing out. And I almost feel like that this is why this is happening, because I almost feel like the universe is like, all right, everyone, like it's actually
Yeah.
time for you to start doing things based on who you are, like what you love, what your truth is, and this kind of just leads me to the next question, because like, how does one figure that out even? I know that you had said in the prep call that you took a pause. Like, you've always done what you love, but it wasn't like necessarily like underneath like the right framework. And you did that hard thing where like you took a pause for a year, like you went on a sabbatical, you cashed out your 401k to like give yourself like the breathing room to do this thing, which I think a lot of people I think are it sounds like from what you're saying are going to kind of be forced to do that soon. So like how did it work for you?
Yeah, and so right, like my story is that I always loved my job. I always loved my profession, like engineering, building product, innovation, always loved it. But at the same time, also I joined the companies, I love the mission. But then you know, I had to leave and find another job. So I get from job to job. So last year I decided to kind of take a pause and really look at my career again, right? Because it was very confusing. Like, okay, if I like my job and I like my
Yeah,
profession, why do I need to move and change jobs all the time?
right.
So I kind of took a pause and look at within myself is like, what are the things that I love? And it was kind of an interesting journey, like a personal journey, because I started the journey of like, I probably hate all the things that I've done, because that's, why, if you didn't hate it, why do you have to leave all those
Right.
jobs?
Why am I stopping?
Why I was stopping,
Yeah,
right?
what's going on?
So I kind of started exploring different things, and by the end of the cycle, I kind of realized that 95% of the things that I used to do, I loved it. It was probably in the wrong place, in the wrong attitudes, in the wrong,
Hmm.
for the wrong reasons, right?
Right.
I think like
Wow.
I took a lot of roles, probably money and promotion, right? Like the titles. And after this sabbatical, I'm like, I really want to take roles that feels good, that I can
Mm.
bring myself into the role. And there's a lot of things that I learned that I would love to do. So I think like my recommendation is like, first, I think we all need to understand that we on some sort of like hamster wheel, right?
Right. Yes. First off.
That's the first step that
Yes.
we're not like we think we're progressing, but we're
Yeah.
not. And something that's like in my sabbatical kind of like an aha moment for me was that everything in nature that we're looking at, it's a cycle, right? It's like ups and
Mm.
down, everything, waveform, frequency, everything is like, but for some reason, we think success in life is linear, right?
Right.
We start from the bottom and we keep going and
Right.
climbing.
That is so well said. I've never really thought about it like that. That is so true.
It is true. And I
Yeah.
think that's the like why we're not happy because
Right.
if we're not thinking we're going to the next step, if we're taking a job and we think this job is beneath us, right? Because we have to go from director to VP. We can't go from director to just a
Right. Right.
manager.
You have to keep making more.
If I'm
It's
making less money,
yeah,
like, no,
the,
that's
the,
like,
the, the disease of more.
right, the
Yeah.
disease of more.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you need to realize that we in a hamster wheel that we not and progression is not linear, So those are the things that I'm like, okay, I need to kind of so that's like the two things. The third thing is like understanding that a lot of the time we walking around and not looking at within, we actually always
Mm.
looking and trying to fix our mask. That's something that you always say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
like, am I looking great? Is my
Yeah.
job,
Is my mask on
the
straight? Yeah.
masking straight?
Yeah.
That's all, most of us, that's
Right.
all we do. Do we
Yeah.
have the right car? Do we have the right
Yeah.
house? Do we have, but
Right.
not because those things makes you happy, because the perception from other people is like, oh, we must be successful because we have those things.
Right.
So once someone realized that we all
Wow.
we do here is fixing the masks, and we try to go in linear progression, and
Right.
the right way to do
Right.
it. The only way to progress is actually looking inside and really understanding what's driving you, what's
Yeah.
actually makes you happy.
Right.
So a lot of like looking within in that process, and it's hard.
How you've done that? Like how? What do you do? Like what's your toolkit for going within?
Um, These are right, like the obvious things, meditation, yoga, quiet times, really be really intuitive And that's one of the
Mm.
things that I learned in this year. Like I'm really intuitive if something doesn't feel right.
Mm.
Like you know, in a lot of cases, like we don't know what we love,
Right.
but we know what we don't love.
Right, right. We know what we don't love.
We
Right.
know what we don't love because it doesn't feel good on our body.
Right.
Right? Like when
Right.
we do something that we're not supposed to do, there's a lot of signals, right? That we're not supposed to do it. So at least be intuitive on what you're not supposed to do. That's going to
Right.
lead you to the things that you need to do.
Right. And have you like along the way found yourself, because I've been a victim of that as well, where I have said yes, even though I think intuitively I still should have said
Right,
no, because I think
right,
we're still so programmed to say yes in the face of things that we don't want to do
right,
because we think we're
right.
supposed to.
Exactly, exactly. So number one is recognize the feeling that like when you're supposed to say no. And
Yeah.
this, if you're really in tune with yourself, you're gonna recognize them immediately. It's like, if you're thinking about it
Right.
many times, you're probably not supposed to do it, right?
Right.
But at the same time, we should say yes to a lot of other things. Like, it's
Mm.
things that there's a difference between things that I'm not supposed to do versus things that I'm afraid to do
Right. Right.
that
Yes.
right? That's things we actually need to lean to. Like if it's come from
Right.
fear, you don't do things because you're afraid of.
Right.
Probably the thing that you should do, right? That's what the
Right.
growth is.
Yeah.
So be
That's
more.
that's so well said. It's so true because like when I think about the things that I'm most passionate about and then I go to do them, I am afraid. Like I am not comfortable.
Right,
And but I cannot let that fear stop me because I have the deep passion for it. It's like my intuition is driving me there. And so like would you say that what you've figured out is how to kind of get comfortable with being uncomfortable?
right, right.
Yeah.
I think like when someone recognizes fear, for me,
Mm.
this is a sign of direction.
Oh,
That's where you need to go,
wow. Wow.
right?
Wow.
If you feel other things like anxiety or things that like right, like I don't want to hang out with specific person or I don't want to go to specific places, and it's not come from fear. So you need to ask yourself question like why do you don't want to go to a specific place, right?
Mm.
Is it because you're afraid to meet like new people, you have a fear, or is it because you really don't like the person that like
Right.
have like a bad energy from that person? And I
Right.
think when you realize that it's a fear and it's hard, right? Because we want to be comfortable, we don't want to be afraid, but that's what the growth is, right? Like
Yeah.
you kind of break off fears and you find the other side of fears actually the next step, right? That's how you grow yourself. So
That's expansion.
expansion,
That's
exactly.
so for you then, like what did you figure out? Like you said before, success is not linear. You talked about, kind of just like realizing you're on a hamster wheel, allowing yourself to step off of it, and that, you no longer need to say yes when you mean no and do things for the optics, right? So did you then figure out like did you get back to a place because you're in the cycle now that like maybe where you started
It is.
instead of linear?
It is funny, right? Which is a cycle, right? Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is funny with me, right? Like it was like all the things that I thought I'm going to find in this journey, I actually had them in the beginning, you know?
Wow. Wow.
What interesting also with me, right? So my career is engineering, so I start like as an engineer, like actually building things. And
Yeah.
then because the linear progression, I kind of like had to manage teams and
Right,
like
you're supposed to
I
manage
was
at
supposed
some
to manage
point. Yeah,
people.
yeah.
There's some part that I still like manage
Right.
people. But it removed me from actually building things, right?
Wow.
Um, and then in this kind of like break that I took, I realized that I do like to build things, which means that I need to be in a place that I can actually build things, which means that maybe it's not like big corporation that I need to manage
Mm.
hundreds of people.
Right, because
Uh,
they're going away anyway.
and they're going away, and
Right.
I don't think in that level you build things like at
Right.
least not the way that excite me, right? Yes, they do build things. They moving parts for other teams to
Right.
the team to build things, but I do
Right.
like the actual action of building things. So that's what I learned, and it's kind of contradict my linear progression. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, that means that I need to be an engineer again. But again, like I didn't try to put any definition on what it means because title usually it's like when you're labeling something, it's like dangerous thing.
Right.
So I'm not trying to label it at all.
Right, right. There's no box. I think it's so interesting that you said that because I feel like we are so used to labeling things and we're used to titles and we're used to putting things into boxes. And like what you had said in the beginning was, we're going to be moving into a way of being where we're going to be multiple different things, right? We're going to
Exactly.
kind of like become generalists, where we know a little bit
Right.
of everything, so it's contraindicative to put
Exactly.
ourselves into boxes. And it sounds like in your flexibility, like you remembered a part of yourself that you probably forgot. And so in the role now that you're in, can you do it all? Like, can you manage and also build? Like, were you able to manifest that kind of thing because you're in this energy?
Right. Yeah. So that's one of the things that like I promised myself that I know exactly that I need to do both.
Wow.
Right? So
Wow.
right now, like I'm focusing on strategy and sales cycles and exploring with the client things, but at the same time, I need to have time to build things and
Right.
kind of related to each other, right? Like you have to, especially with the new technology, you have to experiment, especially the system that we're building today, the agentic system that we're building today. It's new. Nobody built them before. So
Mm.
you really need to get your hands dirty and try to figure out how to build so you can actually offer your clients those systems.
Wow. So, well, yeah, in like 1 to 2 lines, what is an agentic system? For the people that
Right.
don't know.
Agentic systems are it's a systems that's going to have very strong reasoning in the system, which means like
Mm.
the large language model is going to be the brain of the system. And that what's going to allow us to do basically take all the processes that we know, like in corporation and others areas, and automate them with that brain, right?
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
if you
Wow.
that's why like I'm thinking like, okay, why corporation is going to shrink? It's going
Right.
to shrink for that reason, because
Right.
the way corporation, the success of corporation is finding a market fit and then finding repeatable process that gonna lead to repeatable success, right?
Right. Right.
So corporation is full of processes, and what those agentic AI systems going to do, take each process and just going to automate it. They're going to do it much faster, in higher accuracy, with not a lot of people.
Wow.
That's the systems that everybody's trying to figure out how to build them. And I think the prediction is by 2030 or 2035, all process going to be automated.
Wow.
So that's like the part of the software, but then there's like another part of robotic that not a lot of people talking about, um, like AI robotic, like humanoids, like
Mm-hmm.
bots that going to do things for you,
Right.
uh,
Right.
that and self-driving cars, and so we're
Right.
moving into a very different time,
Yeah.
which is going to be interesting to see how humans going to fit into this time zone. But
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like you've really crafted an interesting template with your life for people to learn from because, it sounds like the skills that'll be needed for being able to move into this way of being isn't more knowledge,
right.
right? Because the knowledge is always like readily available if you know how to
Mhm.
ask the questions. But it's what you said before. Like it's being honest with who you really are,
Right.
living your truth, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, being creative, being curious,
Mhm.
being passionate. And my thought behind this, I know I've told you this before, is like, well, those are all of the things that like AI can't do.
Right.
Like it needs humans to, feed it cool,
Right.
innovative ideas, and those like all those skills we just talked about like ladder up to are you meditating? Like, are you accessing the thing that AI can never access, which is, higher consciousness, getting, information from nowhere, kind of like downloads, which is
Yeah.
intuition, like information that just like comes from like the universe that like hits you and you're like, oh, I have an idea. Like, are you accessing, that part of yourself, which is essentially imagination, right? And, so it kind of just it leads me to the next question because I know like my generation is not doing this,
Mhm.
and I feel like we're gonna have to make a shift to start to do that, which is kind of really cool because that's us getting back to who we've always been, that we've kind of just put away. But like, how do we do that in education? Like, do you feel like the education system is going to turn into that? Like what I'm talking about? Like, is that where we're
Yeah.
going now? Because I don't think like, corporations are going to hire for, oh, someone memorized things really well anymore. Like
Right.
that's done.
Yeah, like I think like we need to look at every system that exists right now because when we created those systems, it was a good reason why we created it. So if you look at education, why we created education, right? To acquire knowledge, right? We didn't have a lot of books. I grew up with like 10 books in the house, like encyclopedia of 10 books. And
Right.
my
Same.
knowledge base,
And you
right?
kept
That's
them
what
for like 10
I got,
years. Yeah.
right? And then I got to go to school because they have more books and more knowledge and more smart teachers that teach you things, right? But now knowledge is free, and now large language models know a lot more than the teacher, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
what the purpose of school? Definitely not to
Mic
acquire
drop, like
knowledge,
in that moment, like,
right? Like definitely not to acquire knowledge. So why do we need school, right?
right.
I think, you know, one of the things that like you mentioned is like human needs to be very in tune with the intuition because that's the only thing that probably left for us to do here
Right.
is like lying to our intuition because AIs don't have this intuition. The way AI works is it has like a memory, a context window, and the context window is finite, right? Like that's how much PDF you can put in this context,
Right.
and that's the information you draw. But human can learn from different subjects, as you say, like the best idea comes from aha moment that
Mhm.
from one field that nobody thought about,
Right.
and then you bring it to another field.
Right.
So
Right.
AI is going to be hard time to find all this permutation. It could, right? It could find a permutation, but you as human can actually direct the AI to be more innovative, right? Just like, yeah, I know about this in this area, in this area, in this area. What can I do with it? So it's
Right, like
blending.
let's apply it here.
Let's
Right, like you
apply.
you had done a post I think recently on LinkedIn about that. Like it was like, if you think of like our greatest minds, like the
Yeah,
greatest like philosophers or
yeah.
scientists, like they weren't just schooled in one discipline, like Da Vinci,
Da Vinci, yeah,
like he was everything from like an artist, he
yeah.
studied astronomy, like the
Sculpture,
but like
mathematician,
so like Galileo, like
right?
multiple
Right,
different Socrates, like multiple different, like it was like architecture and also astronomy and also like there were so many different
right.
um kind of disciplines. Like maybe they were interested in 5 to 6 kinds of
Right.
disciplines, right? And we've been told no, just choose one and stick with it.
Hmm.
So there's your
Hmm.
box. But where innovation comes from is exactly where philosophy came from, which is when you're
Hmm.
comparing and contrasting multiple disciplines.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
where it comes from. And so we have to become that to
Right.
be able to work with AI.
Right. And like if you look at the education system, right, they teach us, hey, you need to be an expert in one area. That's
Mhm.
right. You need to
Right.
pick a
Choose
major.
one, right? Pick a
Just one
major.
major.
Yeah.
This is you. You're going to be a finance guy. You're going to be like, I don't know, like an engineer.
Right.
You're going to be, but that's not, like we don't give the children right now in school like the tools to be successful when they finish school in 4 or 5 years.
Right. Right.
They're going to
And so
need
how do we do that now?
I think every kid needs to start really experimenting with this technology. I know some schools disallow kids to use ChatGPT, but as a parent, you should encourage your kids to explore that even for homework,
Yeah.
even like study for tests, it's a great tool for learning and because number one skill would be is understanding many discipline, right? But not on deep level. You just need to know.
Right, right. And like asking the kids what are like the things they're interested in. And they might just be like, look, there's like 4 or 5 things I would like to know.
Yeah, so
Like have
go
them self-select.
right and go kind of explore them, right? Like and I think school needs to change. Like it doesn't make sense for now right now to the entire school reading this one book and doing like this
Right,
report on one book,
right,
right?
right.
Like just let them pick any book, anything.
Anything that,
Not even a
yeah,
book, right?
anything that gets them engaged, like anything that keeps them from putting their imagination away or burying their truth, because that's what we were always taught. That's why like so many people are like, well, I don't know what I would do if you asked me what I love. Like, I don't even know. And then like if
Right,
people do know what they love, they're like too afraid to do it because they're too
right,
like programmed to not do it and they're
right.
afraid of failure. So like if we get the kids you know, engaged in researching the things that they love. Like it's self-directed.
Mhm.
Just from nowhere, the ideas come because that's where the cool, innovative ideas come from, in comparing and contrasting like those multiple disciplines and allowing yourself to feel the joy of it, like to feel the fun of it. Like that is your truth. And that's like what's been completely programmed out of school.
Right. Yeah, and as a parent, like I know a lot of parents still doing it, right? That they're pushing the kids. I think as a parents, you need to really push the kids to understand what they love,
Mm.
to recognize what they love. Because like nobody asked us what we loved, right? And
Right.
it's very hard to find. Like that's why I said before that like maybe I don't know what I love, but I know what I don't like.
Right. Right. We'll start
But
there. We'll
it's not there. But maybe like
start
if
that.
someone taught me like how to find like love, it would
Right.
be much easier. I was like, I love
Yeah.
this. I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
for it, right? So I think like as a parent, like you need to kind of like push the kids to like things that they love, have them curious about the things that they love. Yeah, that's the best thing, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Um, but
Yeah. I mean, like your kids are, school age, high school, I know one is wanting to go to college. I mean they both do. Like and it's funny because like it used to be the thing that we would push and we would push SATs and all these things and now we're starting to see that there is a crumbling in that system because it doesn't seem to make sense to like spend all this money and go into debt just to focus on one discipline and memorize all this information that like isn't even going to be valued anymore and you're only just putting yourself into a box. So like what do you do now with your older child then with that regard?
well, I think like well, he wants to go to college, which is great. Yeah, he wants to go to college, great. Definitely not to acquire knowledge,
Right.
but
Right. He probably
definitely
wants
not
to go
to
to have
get a
fun.
job,
Yeah.
because like, if my kid's gonna come to me like, listen, I don't want to go to college. I have this idea, entrepreneurship
Right.
idea that I want to do.
Right.
I'm like, go do it.
Yeah.
What you're gonna learn these 4 years, not even
Right.
comparable to what you're gonna learn in college. So
Right.
you have all the tools. You have all the tools.
Right.
Really, like if I was like 18 years old and I had an idea, I probably didn't need any money. You know, I live in my parents' house. I can be entrepreneur. I can have idea. I can build something. I can try to sell it on my own.
Right.
Um, so yeah, and so that's why I'm like telling my kids, like,
Wow.
if they
So you
want to.
tell them that. You tell them that.
Yeah, like
That's
if you have an
amazing.
idea and you want to passion, if you're passionate about it and you want to do it, you should do it and don't go to college. But my oldest one, he wants to go to college because he think it's going to be fun, which is it's an experience. If you go
Right.
for the experience, go for it,
Right.
right?
So then you're like, you're gonna get a scholarship then.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna pay $100,000 a
Yeah, it doesn't make
semester
sense.
for the
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Like I feel
Uh,
like we're moving into this age of like needing less things, right? Which means that we can like, kind of like do less of what we don't want to do. Like if we're kind of moving away from what the optics are and what people think and like what we think on the outside is going to make us happy, right? And we're starting to realize, wow, what if we just did what we love? Like the things don't matter. Like
Yeah.
they just happen to come because you're already in that energy of creation. It's interesting because, then you're in a point of just being more,
Yeah.
you get to just
I
be
think
you.
like parents, like if now that I'm thinking about it, parents need to be really transparent with the kids.
Mm,
They cannot push them to places that they personally feel unhappy, right? So if I'm pushing my kids, you're gonna go to corporation, you're gonna start from here, and you're gonna end up here, and they did the same walk,
right.
and they're unhappy. I'm like, why do they push the kids to do the things that they hate? You know? So I think parents need to, and it's
Wow.
down at the end of the day to fear, right? Because they're
Yeah.
afraid that if they're gonna not gonna go in a linear fashion, they're gonna end up homeless with no. That's what they thought.
Right.
Like if you're
Right.
gonna go to college, you're gonna be homeless, right?
Yes. Yes. And so this is the paradigm flip that we're talking about. And it's essentially, are you brave enough to walk away from the program,
Right.
that's been entrained and create your own way of being? And I mean, it sounds like you're doing that, you've done that for yourself. You're teaching that to your children, which is amazing. And it kind of like shifts me into like a larger question because, I know you're from Israel. I know your entire family, lives there. Um, do you see that there can be an exit of that program there? Because I know, not only do they live the way that we do, and they're, trying to have like that linear progression and they care what other
Mhm.
people think, but like at the same time, it's like also like proliferating that pattern alongside the pattern of war. Like we continue to do things, even though like the outcome doesn't make us happy. Like we're
Right.
not happy, but you got to keep doing it. Like, do you from the outside, like living in a different country, like, do you see that as like also a system that they need to like step outside and leave? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think like as I said, like right now we need to look at all systems,
Mm,
healthcare, politics,
right.
every system, education, every system that we start as a good thing. I think if you're really honest with yourself and you really look at them, what they do, you're going to realize that we got too far,
Yeah.
right? And the same thing with conflicts in Israel, when you realize that you're just a player in a chess game. And
Yes.
that's what we are, right? Like if you're really honest with yourself and you go within, you see like, oh my God, we're fighting for so many years, we're killing so many people. Uh, and I believe this is my belief, right? I believe that I need to live in this land. But if you take a step back and you really understand that really like you're a player in a chess game for someone else
Mm,
benefit, and you really like what's the thing that you matter to you? What do you really want, right? You want happiness, you want life,
yeah.
you know? Uh, I think that's where, like, at least for me, I'm like, I'm not interested in this conflict.
Yeah.
You know? And all I care is that I'm going to be healthy, my kid's going to be healthy, and we're going to live happy life and promote life. Then we need to do other things, right?
Yeah.
You can't
Right.
fall into the trap
Right.
of the hate. This person, this group of people say that. Now I need to hate them.
Right.
Social media, it's intensified, right? That become like many groups that really hate each other.
Right.
So we need a different ways to bring everybody together.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I've like with all that you have said this entire time, it's like, just knowing like the simple laws of manifestation, like you can only live your truth, you can only create, like you can only manifest, when you are in a high vibrational way of being, which is equal to love, and it's equal to empathy, it's equal to compassion, and it's equal to joy and truth. And none of that is equal to hate,
mhm.
like
Yeah.
none of that. And so it's almost like you're either in like this new way of being energy where you're leaving the system and you're creating a way of being just based individually on how you feel, the world should manifest around you, or you're not, like, or you're following a program, and trying to like build consensus as to why everyone else, should hate the same people as you. So like it sounds like what you're saying is like if everyone could like just like put their guns down for like 1 second and look up and know that they're being asked to like not be able to create,
Right.
like they're being asked to like say, you're actually not as important,
Yeah,
like
your value is not important. We
right,
don't care if you don't have water, or you need to like fight and your family's got killed. We don't care about that, but you need to fight for that mission to be happy, right?
right, right, right. When like you've just proved, and the
Right.
great, spiritual leaders say it all the time that it's only ever within.
Right. Like the land's not gonna make you happy. Like killing the other side's not gonna make you happy. It's just like the ladder of your job. It's linear, right? You're
Right.
gonna get the land, you're gonna want that, you're gonna get that. We're never gonna be happy. So I think like, looking within, like, okay, what's makes people happy? And I
Right.
always believe that if I'm gonna go to the other side, the Palestinian side, in a room and ask them,
Hmm.
what makes you happy today? They're not gonna say, I hope they're not gonna say, uh, kill a Jew or kill Israel.
Right. Right.
They're gonna say, I want to have a great meal. I want
Right.
to go to my mosque and pray,
Right.
be spiritual. So I think there's a lot of distractions and as I say, like we're just a player in a chess game.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we need to understand that. And I think
Yeah.
once we understand that, maybe we need to have more positive conversations,
Yeah.
talk about things that we love and not the things that we hate.
Right. Right. The things that we have in common. And
Things
like
that we have
I
in
love
common.
that you said that. Cause yeah, like if you put someone in a room from both sides, like and take away all the sides and take away the
Yeah,
countries,
let's
take
exchange
away,
recipes, right?
yeah. Yes.
Let's
Everyone
cook
remembers.
together. Let's go to the movie
Yeah.
together and laugh. I think
I
that's the
love
stuff
that.
we need to talk about.
Everyone remembers the simple truth that, they want to keep hidden from us, which is the fact that we're all human.
Right, right. Yeah,
We've come from the same place. We're going back to the same place. Can we remember that while we're here? You
yeah.
know?
If I think like all these conversation, right, lead to one thing, that the thing that we think gonna make us happy, the outside things that going to make us happy, they never the things that makes us happy, right? So anything that you think you're gonna go to the mall and buy a bag, and that's going to make you happy,
Right.
it's untrue, right? If you think that conquering a land and killing other people is going to make you happy, it's not true, right? It's not
Right.
going to make you happy. When we're going to understand that, kind of look at the world in that lens, I think we're going to be in a different place, and maybe
Yes.
AI is going to have a play in that. I don't know.
Yes. Maybe you'll create even something more than you've already created, a product for that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing. And that's why I do this podcast because I feel like the more people that speak, this way into the world, the more the world shifts in real time and mirrors it back to us. So last question is, if you had to just, kind of create the new earth, what is it to you? How do we get started?
I think, as I said before, like we need to question everything, all the thing that we used
Mm,
to do, that someone taught us that that's going to make us happy. We
mm,
need to question them.
right.
And then really happiness, it's kind of like cliche, but it's the truth, right? Like happiness is within. It's
Yeah.
inside.
Yes.
It's never the outside. So if you think like this vacation gonna make you happy, this car gonna make you happy, it's not. It's good to get those things, like you want to go on vacation, but it's just like an instant of gratification. But the
Right.
real happiness is within, is like knowing
Mhm.
what you love and what makes you happy. So I think that's hopefully what how people is going to be able to be more happy in this world.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I would love to see that. I know that it's happening because I know so many people are not happy with the way things have been, but they don't quite know about the way forward. So I cannot thank you enough for shining your light and offering us a way forward and a path that's worked for you. This has been an amazing experience and interview, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.